The gospel question for today is, if you knew a year ago what you know now, what would you tell yourself? Today's first reading is from Deuteronomy, an interesting book, but not one people tend to gravitate towards because it's pretty concerned with the law. Although it's written to read like 3 long speeches given by Moses before the Israelites entered the Promised Land, it was likely compiled over 3 centuries and much after the fact. It contains some pretty explicit illustrations of tragedies that befell the Israelites much later, including the fall of the Northern Kingdom and the Babylonian exile. In a sense, the book of Deuteronomy was composed in an effort to examine what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what might be done in the future to avoid such a calamity. In other words, if we knew then what we know now, what would we do differently? In today's reading, Moses advises the Israelites, follow the commandments and decrees I gave you, that God gave me, and everyone who lives with you in the Promised Land will say, this great nation is truly a wise and intelligent people. Who doesn't want to hear that? Basically, stay close to your covenant with God, and people won't think you suck, and everything will be okay. But then, at the very end of the reading, Moses says this, however, take care and be earnestly on your guard not to forget the things which your own eyes have seen, nor let them slip from your memory as long as you live, but teach them to your children and to your children's children. What was he talking about? Let's remember that Moses is speaking to a people who had been slaves in Egypt, whose pasts contained a reality so wildly different from the future they stood on the brink of. Pasts that contained pain, ridicule, poverty, death. Do not forget that you were slaves. It's stated and restated time and time again in the Old Testament. Well, why would Moses say that? Because God's people have already forgotten? Yes, but it's also about the future. Essentially, Moses is warning the people, don't find yourself here again. Tell your kids what happened and make sure they tell their kids. Don't find yourself here again. Be earnestly on your guard not to forget the things which your own eyes have seen. Well, we have certainly seen a lot in the past year. 2 impeachments of the same president, makeshift morgues lining the streets of New York, hordes of people in face masks protesting the deaths of how many more of our brothers and sisters of color, conspiracy theorists and white supremacists storming the nation's capital, our church's polarization along political lines, and the first female and person of color in the office of the vice president, finally, after 231 years of the office being in existence. If you hear bewilderment in my voice, it's because I am bewildered. When I look around at our nation, when I look around at our church, when I look inside my own heart, I wonder if we ever heeded Moses' warning. Do we ever actually learn from our mistakes, or are we doomed to a Sisyphean existence to push the same boulders up the same hills generation after generation? When will we hear Moses' entreaty to remember and to teach? Now, I'm in a Lenten reading group this year, and last week we were discussing the idea of not wanting to return to normal because was normal really all that great? And collectively, we discovered that we were tired a lot of the time, and we did a lot more things out of obligation than desire, and we were so exhausted on the mundane that we had little room for the important. Now, I can't wait for our world to be healthy again. I desperately want to sit on the patio at Taste in the Central West End and drink a cocktail and eat ridiculously good cheese at a tiny table with my close friends. I am desperate to get back on stage and to sing without plexiglass. So I'm looking forward by looking back. What do I want to remember about this time? How will I be different as I stand on the brink of a promised land of a different kind? Or to paraphrase Maya Angelou, I was doing the best I could until I knew better. Now that I know better, will I do better? My prayer for myself and for all of us is that these questions settle deeply into our hearts this Lent, so that when we emerge on the other side of the Easter tomb as people of compassion and ready to work for justice, that others will say of us, what a truly wise and intelligent people. Wouldn't that be something?